Seattle, a city of innovation and beauty, is also home to a world of wealth and privilege. Among the city's elite is Elizabeth Arellano, a woman who seems to have it all. As the CEO of a successful real estate development firm, she moves with grace and confidence through the city's most exclusive circles. Her life is a carefully curated masterpiece, a tapestry woven from success, philanthropy, and an enviable social calendar. Elizabeth's reputation precedes her. Known for her sharp intellect and unwavering ambition, she is admired as a savvy businesswoman and a generous philanthropist. She supports numerous charities, her name gracing the guest lists of every high-profile event in the city. Her life appears to be a testament to hard work and unwavering determination. Yet, behind the polished facade, whispers circulate. Some whisper of a ruthlessness that propelled her to the top, a willingness to do whatever it takes to secure her position. Others speak of a guarded nature, a woman who keeps her cards close to her chest, never revealing her true self. But these are mere whispers, easily dismissed in the face of her undeniable success. The air crackles with excitement. It's a night of elegance and generosity, a gathering of Seattle's most influential citizens, all gathered for a worthy cause. The annual Fall Gala is a highlight of the social season, a chance to see and be seen, to network, and of course to donate generously. Elizabeth arrives, a vision in shimmering emerald green, her husband Victor, a handsome and successful lawyer, by her side. They are the epitome of power and elegance, their every move watched, their every word analyzed. The room buzzes with their presence. Tonight, all eyes are on Elizabeth. As the evening progresses, Elizabeth navigates the crowded ballroom with practiced ease, exchanging pleasantries and charming potential donors. She is a master of the social game, her smile dazzling, her laughter infectious, but beneath the surface, a current of unease seems to flicker in her eyes. The gala draws to a close, the guests bidding farewell with air kisses and promises of future engagements. But Elizabeth is nowhere to be found. At first, it is assumed she has slipped away discreetly, perhaps feeling unwell or needing to attend to an urgent matter. As the night deepens and Elizabeth remains absent, a sense of unease begins to settle over the remaining guests. Her absence is noted, whispered about in hushed tones. Where could she be? Her husband Victor appears visibly shaken, his initial concern escalating into something akin to panic. The following morning, the news breaks. Elizabeth Arellano, Seattle's golden girl, has vanished. The story sends shockwaves through the city, rippling through the carefully constructed walls of wealth and privilege. The media descends, hungry for any scrap of information, any detail that might shed light on the baffling disappearance. The police launch an investigation, but the trail is cold. Elizabeth Arellano has vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a city on edge. Detective Sarah Collins, a woman known for her sharp mind and unwavering dedication to justice, received the case file. The name Elizabeth Arellano jumped out at her, a stark reminder of the city's social hierarchy and the weight this case would carry. Sarah, with her no-nonsense demeanor and a gaze that could pierce through any facade, was not one to be swayed by wealth or influence. Her partner, Detective Mark Hayes, sauntered into their shared office, his easygoing charm a stark contrast to Sarah's intensity. Despite their differences, they shared an undeniable chemistry, their contrasting styles often complementing each other in unexpected ways. Another day, another headline-grabbing case, Collins, Mark quipped, his tone light but his eyes reflecting the gravity of the situation. "This isn't some petty theft, Hayes," Sarah retorted, her gaze fixed on the file in front of her. "Elizabeth Arellano is practically royalty in this city. Her disappearance has everyone on edge. The pressure was on, they both knew it. The eyes of the city and perhaps the nation were on them to solve this case." Section 2, A Life Under Scrutiny. Their investigation began at the Arellano mansion, a testament to wealth and privilege. Sarah and Mark exchanged a look, a silent acknowledgement of the stark contrast between this world and the gritty reality of their job. The air hung heavy with unspoken questions as they stepped into the grand foyer, the silence deafening. They interviewed the staff, their questions met with a mixture of fear and carefully constructed composure. Each answer seemed rehearsed, every detail meticulously curated to present a picture-perfect life. But Sarah, with her years of experience, could sense an undercurrent of tension, a discordant note in the perfectly orchestrated symphony of the Arellano household. Every surface gleamed, every piece of furniture spoke of exquisite taste and exorbitant prices. Yet Sarah couldn't shake off the feeling that something felt staged, as if the house itself was holding its breath, hiding secrets behind its elegant facade. Section 3. A Husband's Plea. Victor Arellano, Elizabeth's husband, cut a figure of grief and despair. His composure, so carefully maintained in the public eye, seemed to crumble as he spoke to them, his voice thick with emotion. He spoke of their love, their shared dreams, painting a picture of a marriage built on a foundation of respect and unwavering devotion. His alibi for the night of Elizabeth's disappearance was airtight, corroborated by witnesses and documented evidence. Yet Sarah couldn't shake off a nagging suspicion. There was a calculated precision to his grief, a rehearsed quality to his anguish. Mark, ever the empath, seemed swayed by Victor's distress, his questions laced with sympathy. But Sarah, her instincts screaming, pressed harder, her inquiries sharp, probing for inconsistencies in his narrative. Section 4. Cracks in the facade. The discovery of Elizabeth's car 2 days later only deepened the mystery. It was found abandoned in a secluded area, her phone, smashed beyond repair, lying on the passenger seat. The scene felt staged, too neat, as if someone wanted the car to be found, but not before removing any potential evidence. The seemingly perfect life Elizabeth Arellano had so carefully constructed began to unravel under Sarah's relentless scrutiny. Financial records revealed a series of large transactions, assets liquidated with a speed that hinted at desperation rather than careful planning. Whispers of infidelity, of secret meetings, and shady business dealings began to surface, painting a picture far different from the polished image Elizabeth presented to the world. The deeper they delved, the more Sarah became convinced. Elizabeth Arellano was living a double life, a life shrouded in secrets and deceit. The investigation began at the last place Elizabeth Arellano was seen alive, the opulent ballroom of the Fall Gala. Detectives Sarah Collins and Mark Hayes reviewed security footage, their eyes scanning the elegantly dressed guests, searching for any sign of anything unusual. The footage showed Elizabeth arriving with her husband Victor, their smiles bright, their body language suggesting a couple at ease with their place in the world. Hours ticked by as they meticulously analyzed every frame, every interaction. Most guests were lost in conversation, oblivious to the cameras, but Elizabeth, usually so composed, seemed distracted, her gaze darting around the room, her hand repeatedly reaching for her phone. "She's nervous," Sarah murmured, her eyes glued to the screen, like she's waiting for something or someone. They interviewed guests, their questions met with polite evasions and carefully crafted responses. No one seemed to recall seeing Elizabeth leave or interacting with her in the moments leading up to her disappearance. The staff, too, offered little help, their memories clouded by the sheer volume of guests that evening. As Sarah and Mark delved deeper into the world Elizabeth inhabited, they encountered a wall of silence, a code of secrecy that protected the city's elite. Whispers of infidelity, of shady business deals, and long-held grudges circulated, but no one dared to speak openly, to risk their place in this gilded cage. One name, however, kept resurfacing: Senator David Moreland, a powerful and controversial figure known for his ruthless ambition and his unwavering pursuit of power. Rumors of an affair between Moreland and Elizabeth had been circulating for months, whispers easily dismissed as envious gossip. But Sarah, her instincts honed from years on the force, sensed something more sinister. Moreland was a man accustomed to getting what he wanted, a man who wielded power like a weapon. Was it possible Elizabeth had become entangled in something dangerous, something that threatened her carefully constructed world? The question lingered, a dark cloud hanging over their investigation. With physical evidence scarce, Sarah turned her attention to the digital world, hoping to find clues in the silent language of data. Elizabeth's phone, though damaged, yielded a treasure trove of information: emails, text messages, call logs, all meticulously documented, each interaction a piece of the puzzle. The messages were cryptic, their meaning obscured by layers of encryption. Sarah, her brow furrowed in concentration, worked tirelessly to break through the digital walls, determined to uncover the truth hidden within those encrypted lines. Who was Elizabeth communicating with, and what secrets were they so desperate to keep hidden? The digital trail led them deeper into Elizabeth's secret life, revealing a web of lies and deceit that extended far beyond the gilded cage of Seattle's elite. Sarah, her eyes fixed on the screen, felt a chill run down her spine. Elizabeth Arellano was not who she seemed to be, and the truth she feared was far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. The glow of the computer screen illuminated Sarah's face, her brow furrowed in concentration. The encrypted messages extracted from Elizabeth's phone were a tangled web of code, each character a cryptic puzzle piece. Days turned into nights as Sarah, fueled by coffee and a relentless pursuit of the truth, worked tirelessly to break through the digital walls guarding Elizabeth's secrets. Each failed attempt fueled her determination. These messages, Sarah was certain, held the key to understanding Elizabeth's disappearance. They were sent from a burner phone, untraceable, adding another layer of mystery to the case. The messages themselves were fragmented, phrases like "the deadline is near," "they won't wait forever," and "silence is golden" flashing across the screen. Mark, his usual jovial demeanor replaced by a quiet intensity, watched Sarah work. He recognized the look of a predator closing in on its prey, a look he'd seen many times before on her face when she was close to cracking a case. "Anything?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper, careful not to break her concentration. While Sarah delved into the digital abyss, Mark focused on the tangible, meticulously tracing the flow of Elizabeth's finances. What he uncovered was unsettling. In the weeks preceding her disappearance, Elizabeth had systematically liquidated a significant portion of her assets. Expensive artwork vanished from her walls, luxury cars were sold off at a fraction of their value, and properties were hastily transferred to anonymous holding companies. "It's like she was preparing to disappear," Mark muttered, his fingers drumming on his desk, his eyes scanning the financial documents spread out before him. The sheer volume of transactions was staggering, the speed at which they were executed even more alarming. This was not the behavior of a successful CEO planning for the future. It was the desperate scramble of someone trying to escape their past. He reached out to his contacts in the financial sector, his voice laced with urgency as he sought answers. Each conversation deepened the mystery. The money, it seemed, had vanished into a labyrinth of offshore accounts, untraceable, leaving no trace of its final destination. The evidence was mounting, painting a picture of a woman on the run. Elizabeth's passport was missing, her calendar devoid of any entries beyond the date of her disappearance. The carefully constructed facade of her life had crumbled, revealing a woman desperate to escape the consequences of her actions. Sarah and Mark found themselves chasing shadows, piecing together fragments of a puzzle that seemed to shift and change with every new piece of information. The deeper they delved, the more they realized that Elizabeth Arellano was not the woman they thought she was. She was a master manipulator, a chameleon who had seamlessly blended into a world of wealth and privilege, all the while hiding a dark secret. The pressure mounted with each passing day. The media frenzy surrounding Elizabeth's disappearance reached a fever pitch, the public hungry for answers, the police department eager for a resolution. The walls were closing in, and not just on Elizabeth. Sarah and Mark began to notice they were being followed, their every move seemingly watched. A sense of unease settled over them, a feeling that they were no longer just investigators in this case, but players caught in a dangerous game. One evening, as Sarah left the station, a car sped past, a dark sedan with tinted windows, its license plate obscured by mud. She felt a surge of adrenaline, her instincts screaming at her to run, to hide. But she stood her ground, her gaze fixed on the receding taillights, a steely glint in her eyes. The message was clear: they were getting too close to the truth and someone wanted them to stop digging. But Sarah and Mark were not easily deterred. They had come too far, uncovered too much to back down now. The stakes had been raised, the line between their professional and personal lives blurred. The Arellano mansion stood as a silent sentinel, its facade a carefully constructed illusion of wealth and normalcy. Yet beneath the surface, a current of unease pulsed, a sense of secrets waiting to be unearthed. Sarah and Mark, armed with a warrant and a growing sense of dread, returned to the scene, determined to pry open the tightly sealed lips of the house itself. Every room they examined, every drawer they opened, whispered of a life lived on the edge of a razor blade. The opulence felt staged, the perfection a carefully curated facade hiding a darkness they were only just beginning to glimpse. The staff, their faces pale with a mixture of fear and apprehension, offered little help, their words carefully measured, their gazes evasive. The breakthrough came in the library, a room that spoke of intellectual pursuits and refined tastes. Mark, his eye drawn to a subtle misalignment in the seemingly endless rows of leather-bound books, discovered a hidden mechanism. A section of the bookshelf, when pressed, swung inward, revealing a dark, narrow passageway leading down into the depths of the house. The air grew colder, the smell of damp earth replacing the faint scent of lilies that permeated the rest of the house. The passage, barely wide enough for two people to walk shoulder to shoulder, descended into the earth, the silence broken only by the sound of their own footsteps and the frantic beating of their hearts. Sarah, her hand hovering near the weapon holstered at her hip, led the way, her flashlight beam cutting through the oppressive darkness. The walls, made of rough-hewn stone, seemed to press in on them, the weight of the secrets they held heavy in the air. With each step they took, they ventured further into the unknown, the line between their investigation and a descent into a nightmare blurring with every passing moment. The passage ended abruptly, opening into a large subterranean chamber. The air hung heavy with the weight of unseen things, the silence so profound it seemed to hum in their ears. A single bare bulb hanging precariously from the ceiling cast long, distorted shadows that danced across the walls, amplifying their fears and fueling their imaginations. As their eyes adjusted to the dim light, the full horror of the chamber revealed itself. The walls were adorned with paintings and photographs, each one more disturbing than the last. Grotesque figures, their bodies contorted in pain and agony, stared back at them, their eyes burning with a madness that seemed to reach out and touch their souls. Covered in dust-laden sheets scattered throughout the chamber were objects that defied easy categorization. Sculptures of human figures, their bodies twisted into unnatural positions, their faces contorted in expressions of pain and ecstasy. Strange, ritualistic objects, their purpose unknown, added to the unsettling atmosphere. In a corner, half hidden beneath a pile of debris, Mark discovered a collection of photo albums. His blood ran cold as he flipped through the pages, each photograph a punch to the gut. Young women, their faces etched with fear, their eyes vacant and haunted, stared back at him. They were prisoners, their bodies and souls broken, their spirits crushed. The room was a sanctuary of madness, a testament to a darkness that ran deeper than they could have ever imagined. And then Sarah saw it. A heavy wooden desk, its surface covered in dust and scattered papers, sat against the far wall. In the center, lying open as if beckoning them closer, was a leather-bound journal. The handwriting, elegant and precise, was unmistakably Elizabeth Arellano's. Sarah began to read, her voice barely a whisper in the oppressive silence of the chamber. The words poured out, a torrent of fear, paranoia, and desperation. Elizabeth wrote of being watched, followed, her every move scrutinized. She spoke of threats, of a darkness she couldn't escape. The journal entries painted a picture of a woman spiraling out of control, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. She hinted at secrets, at deals made with dangerous people, at a line she had crossed from which there was no return. The final entry, dated the night of her disappearance, ended abruptly, the last sentence trailing off into a jumble of ink and tears. The journal entries hinted at a dangerous affair, a liaison that had spiraled out of control. Sarah and Mark knew they needed to delve deeper into the connection between Elizabeth Arellano and Senator David Moreland. Moreland, a man who had built his career on a platform of integrity and moral righteousness, was now at the center of a scandal that threatened to unravel his carefully constructed facade. They obtained warrants for Moreland's phone records and financial transactions, their suspicions growing with each piece of data they analyzed. The digital trail was a tangled web of encrypted messages, coded language, and hidden accounts. It was clear that Moreland had something to hide, but the extent of his involvement with Elizabeth and the secrets they shared remained elusive. One message sent from Moreland's phone to Elizabeth just hours before her disappearance sent chills down Sarah's spine. "Our little arrangement is over. Cut your losses and disappear. They're coming for you." The message was cold, calculated, devoid of any emotion. It was a warning, a death knell, and it suggested that Moreland knew more about Elizabeth's fate than he was letting on. Section 2. The Art of Deception. The investigation into Elizabeth's financial dealings led them to the world of high-end art auctions, a world where fortunes were made and lost on the whims of collectors and the authenticity of brushstrokes. Elizabeth, it turned out, was a frequent visitor to these exclusive events, her discerning eye and deep pockets making her a favorite among gallery owners and art dealers. But Sarah and Mark suspected her interest in art went beyond mere aesthetics. They discovered that several of the paintings Elizabeth had purchased over the years were now missing, their whereabouts unknown. These weren't just valuable investments, they were masterpieces. Their disappearance a red flag that screamed of something more sinister than simple theft. They dug deeper, following a trail of forged documents, shell corporations, and anonymous transactions that led them to a cartel operating out of South America, their tentacles reaching into the highest echelons of power. The cartel, known for its brutality and ruthlessness, had found a way to launder its illicit profits through the seemingly legitimate world of art dealing, using masterpieces as currency in a dangerous game of deception. Section 3. The Money Trail. The money trail was a labyrinth, a complex web of transactions designed to obscure its source and its destination. But Sarah, with her relentless determination and her keen eye for detail, began to see a pattern emerge. The money from Elizabeth's liquidated assets, the missing paintings, and Senator Moreland's secret accounts all converged on a single point: a private bank in a secluded Caribbean island, a haven for the world's elite and their ill-gotten gains. This wasn't just about a missing woman anymore, it was about corruption, power, and the lengths to which people would go to protect their secrets. Elizabeth Arellano had stumbled upon something she shouldn't have seen, a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of government and threatened to expose a network of criminals operating with impunity. The clock was ticking, each passing moment bringing them closer to the truth, but also closer to danger. They knew they were being watched, their every move tracked by those who would stop at nothing to silence them. But Sarah and Mark had come too far to back down now. They had a responsibility to find Elizabeth, to expose the truth, and to ensure that justice, no matter how elusive, would be served. Section 1. A Trail of Threats. The silence of the Arellano mansion was deafening after their discovery. Sarah and Mark felt the weight of unseen eyes following their every move. They tried to maintain a sense of normalcy, but the investigation had seeped into their bones, twisting their sense of security. Sleep offered little respite, their dreams haunted by images from the hidden chamber, by the vacant eyes of the women in the photographs. The threats were subtle at first, a car backfiring as they walked down the street, a phone call with no one on the other end. Sarah found a dead rat on her doorstep, its lifeless eyes staring accusingly at her. Mark's car was vandalized, the tires slashed, a single red rose left on the driver's seat. Fear became a constant companion, a bitter taste in their mouths. Their captain, a seasoned veteran with years of experience battling the city's underbelly, shared their concerns. "This isn't just about scaring you off anymore, detectives," he'd said, his voice grave. "They're sending a message. They want you to know they're watching, that they can reach you anytime, anywhere." The threats escalated, becoming more brazen, more dangerous. One evening, as Sarah left the station, a car sped past, barely missing her. She caught a glimpse of the driver, his face obscured by a baseball cap, his eyes cold and calculating. She knew it was no accident. Mark, walking home from a late-night stakeout, was jumped by two men in a dark alleyway. He fought back, his years of training kicking in, but not before they'd landed a few solid punches. He came away with a bruised jaw and a chilling certainty they were playing for keeps. They confronted Senator Moreland, their questions sharper, their accusations more pointed. He denied everything, his voice a venomous hiss, his eyes burning with a rage that belied his carefully constructed image. He threatened lawsuits, investigations, his words dripping with power and influence. But Sarah and Mark had seen through the facade. They knew he was involved, knew he was hiding something. The investigation hit a wall, the trail going cold, the leads dead-ending into a labyrinth of silence and deceit. The pressure mounted, the media frenzy reaching a fever pitch. The public demanded answers, the police department demanded results. Sarah and Mark found themselves working around the clock, their personal lives shrinking to the periphery as they were consumed by the case. And then, just when they thought they were making progress, Elizabeth's car was found. This time it wasn't abandoned in a secluded spot, a beacon of her disappearance. It was found engulfed in flames in a remote industrial area, the license plate removed, the VIN number scratched off. The fire had been so intense, so thorough, that it was impossible to determine if anyone had been inside. The forensics team worked tirelessly, sifting through the ashes, searching for any fragment, any trace of evidence. But the fire had been merciless, leaving behind only a twisted, blackened shell of a car and a chilling question. Had Elizabeth been silenced? Or was this another carefully orchestrated act in a deadly game of cat and mouse? Had Elizabeth vanished again, leaving behind a trail of destruction and unanswered questions, a ghost haunting the gilded cage of Seattle's elite? The answer, they knew, lay buried somewhere in the labyrinth of secrets, a labyrinth that seemed to grow darker and more dangerous with each passing day. The name Sophia echoed in Sarah's mind. A ghost from Elizabeth's past, a whisper from the shadows of the art world. They found her in a dimly lit jazz bar, nursing a glass of whiskey, her eyes reflecting a lifetime of secrets kept and betrayals endured. She was older now, her beauty faded but not extinguished, her gaze sharp, assessing them with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Sophia had known Elizabeth before the money, before the mansion, before the carefully constructed facade of success. They were rivals, confidants, collaborators in the cutthroat world of art, dealing their paths intertwined in a dance of ambition and deceit. She spoke of Elizabeth's hunger for power, her ruthlessness masked by a disarming smile and a carefully cultivated air of vulnerability. Elizabeth was a master puppeteer, Sophia said, her voice husky, tinged with a hint of admiration and regret. She knew how to make people dance to her tune, how to exploit their weaknesses, how to turn their desires against them. Her words painted a picture of a woman they were only beginning to understand, a woman who used her beauty and intelligence as weapons, always one step ahead, always in control. Section 2. The Mastermind Unveiled. Sophia's revelations were like a bomb detonating in the center of their investigation. Elizabeth wasn't just a victim caught in a web of deceit. She was the spider, patiently weaving her intricate web, luring her prey into a trap of her own design. The affair with Senator Moreland, the dealings with the cartel, the disappearance itself, it was all part of a meticulously orchestrated plan. She had used them all, playing them against each other, exploiting their greed, their ambition, their darkest desires. She had stolen millions, funneled through a labyrinth of offshore accounts, her escape route planned with meticulous precision. The car fires, the threats, the dead ends, all distractions, smokescreens designed to mislead, to buy her time. She always had a plan B, Sophia said, her eyes filled with a mix of envy and respect. She was always 10 steps ahead, anticipating every move, controlling the game from the shadows. Sarah and Mark listened, their initial disbelief giving way to a grudging admiration for the sheer audacity of Elizabeth's plan. Section 3. A calculated escape. The key, Sophia revealed, lay in an encrypted ledger, a digital record of Elizabeth's every transaction, every deal, every dark secret. It was the crown jewel of her plan, the insurance policy that guaranteed her freedom and her wealth. The ledger was hidden, not in some offshore account or secret vault, but in plain sight, disguised as a mundane file on a shared server in a nondescript office building. The password, a string of seemingly random characters, was the final piece of the puzzle. Sarah, her fingers flying across the keyboard, her mind sharp, focused, managed to crack the code. As the file opened, a wave of nausea washed over her. The names, the dates, the amounts, it was all there, a damning indictment of a system rotten to its core. Politicians, judges, business tycoons, their carefully crafted reputations shattered by the cold, hard evidence of their complicity. Elizabeth had them all in her grasp, their sins recorded in black and white, a weapon she could wield at any moment. But the most chilling discovery was yet to come. Section 4, the game afoot. The ledger was empty. The accounts, once flush with millions, had been drained, the money vanished into thin air. Elizabeth Arellano, the puppet master, had played her final card, disappearing without a trace, leaving behind a trail of chaos and unanswered questions. She had outmaneuvered them all, the police, the cartel, even her former allies. Sarah and Mark stared at the city lights, the silence between them broken only by the distant wail of a siren. They had been beaten, played for fools by a woman they had underestimated, but amidst the frustration and the bitter taste of defeat, there was a grudging respect, a sense of awe at the sheer audacity of it all. Elizabeth Arellano was gone, vanished into the anonymity of a world without borders, a world where money bought silence and power was the ultimate currency. She was a ghost story now, a cautionary tale whispered in the corridors of power, a reminder that even in the gilded cage of wealth and privilege, the most dangerous predators often wore the most innocent of faces. The game was over, but the memory of the puppet master and the chilling knowledge that she was still out there pulling the strings from the shadows would linger long after the city lights had faded. Section 1, the city holds its breath. The news of Elizabeth Arellano's calculated escape spread through Seattle like wildfire. The city, once captivated by her disappearance, now buzzed with a mixture of astonishment and unease. The woman who had seemed so familiar, a fixture in society pages and charity galas, was revealed to be a phantom, a master manipulator who had vanished into thin air. The media, hungry for answers, dissected every detail of the case, speculating wildly about her whereabouts and motives. The public, once sympathetic to the plight of a missing wife, grappled with a newfound sense of betrayal. The facade of Elizabeth's perfect life had crumbled, revealing a chilling truth. Behind the wealth, the philanthropy, and the dazzling smile lurked a cunning mind capable of orchestrating her own disappearance. In the city's most exclusive circles, whispers of unease replaced the usual chatter about charity events and real estate deals. Elizabeth's former friends and colleagues, once eager to be associated with her success, now distanced themselves, their smiles strained, their eyes filled with a mixture of suspicion and fear. Section 2, unanswered questions linger. Despite the weight of evidence, the case of Elizabeth Arellano remained open, a constant presence in the lives of detectives Sarah Collins and Mark Hayes. The investigation had taken its toll, leaving them emotionally drained, their faith in justice shaken. They had stared into the abyss of human greed and deception, and the experience had left an indelible mark on their souls. Sarah, her usual sharp edges softened by fatigue, found herself replaying every interaction, every detail of the case, searching for a missed clue, a hidden meaning that would lead them to Elizabeth. The memory of the empty ledger, the knowledge that Elizabeth had outmaneuvered them at every turn, fueled a quiet fury within her. Mark, his easygoing demeanor replaced by a newfound cynicism, grappled with the realization that the world was a far more complex and dangerous place than he had imagined. He had been deceived, his trust betrayed by a woman he believed he understood. The experience had chipped away at his idealism, leaving him with a lingering sense of unease. Section 3, a legacy of shadows. The case of Elizabeth Arellano became a cautionary tale, a reminder that appearances could be deceiving, and that even in the most civilized of societies, darkness lurked beneath the surface. The city moved on, the initial shock and outrage fading into a collective shrug of resignation. But the memory of Elizabeth lingered, a ghost story whispered in hushed tones. Did Elizabeth find the freedom she so desperately craved, or did the shadows she danced with ultimately consume her? The answers, if they existed at all, remained elusive, locked away in the mind of a woman who had erased herself from the world she once ruled. The case of Elizabeth Arellano was a stark reminder that sometimes the most dangerous games were played not on a board, but in the shadows of our lives. Where the stakes were high, the players were masters of deception, and the ultimate prize was freedom itself. And as the city returned to its carefully constructed illusion of normalcy, the question lingered: who was playing whom in this intricate game of power, greed, and survival?